Good evening and thanks for joining us on ARC Salt Lake. I'm Jamie McGriff. It's Monday, February 23rd. The month is almost over, and today opening statements were heard in the murder trial of Kouri Richins. We have much more on that, but first we have to talk about the weather because it's been top of mind for so many. A warm day, but are changes on the way? Meteorologist Sean Kelly has that answer in his first alert forecast.
Yeah, temperatures for much of the region have been plenty warm. We had highs today well into the 50s, currently at 47 degrees here in Salt Lake City. So it's a warm, comfortable evening out there, and temperatures as we head through the overnight dipping down here into the lower 40s. We'll see a little bit of increase of cloud coverage as we get into tomorrow morning with shower chances starting to ramp up. So here we go again. We've got another storm moving in. This will be a warm, mild storm, unfortunately, here. So it's going to be all rain with the better chances for rain arriving on Wednesday. Potential for another storm as we head into the weekend. High elevation, wet, heavy, dense mountain snow, though, in our northern mountains under winter weather advisory, which goes into effect tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. That's where we could start to see some light accumulating snow, then increasing in intensity as we head through the overnight and into Wednesday. We could see upwards of maybe 6 to 12 inches of snow, maybe more in some spots. We'll talk about more of the timeline of that coming up in my first alert weather forecast.
As we mentioned at the top of the show, 35-year-old Kouri Richins' murder trial is now underway. She's the Camas woman accused of poisoning her husband with fentanyl and then writing a children's book about grief. Prosecutors allege Richins' real estate company was under financial pressure and she killed her husband because she was the beneficiary for multiple insurance policies.
Kouri Richins makes Eric a drink and takes it to him in their bedroom. He drinks on the bed. She departs the bedroom. Kouri Richins returns to the bedroom at about 3 o'clock a.m. She feels that Eric is cold. She nudges him. He does not respond. She sees that he is stiff and pale. His mouth is wide open. At 3:21, Kouri Richins unlocks her cell phone and calls 911.
I was sleeping in with my kids. I just came in the bed, in our bed, and I turned over, and he's just cold. He's just cold.
Who's cold?
My husband. I turned the light on.
And he's not breathing?
You're going to hear testimony from one of Eric's closest friends that in the few weeks before Eric died, he and Kouri were the happiest together that he'd ever seen them.
Richins has pleaded not guilty to nearly 3 dozen counts, including aggravated murder, mortgage fraud, and insurance fraud. Prosecutors claim Richins killed her husband for money to start a new life. Meanwhile, the defense told jurors not to judge her without hearing her side of the story. 2 News' Heidi Hatch interviewed a criminal defense attorney about the strategies of both the prosecution and defense in this trial.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously, the prosecutor has their version of the events, the defense has their version of the events, and what's really going to come down to, I think, is the way the defense is able to effectively cross-examine prosecutor witnesses. How many holes can they poke in the prosecutor's evidence? It's going to be the housekeeper talking about giving fentanyl to Ms. Richins. It's going to be talking about the search history. Can they poke holes in the person that did that particular forensic analysis? Can they poke holes in the prosecutor's theory about her being greedy and consumed with the desire to get rid of her husband? It's certainly going to be an interesting case to see how it plays out. And what's really going to boil down to is how effectively can the defense cross-examine the prosecutor witnesses.
One of the things that was kind of a red flag in this case and garnered attention across the country is when she wrote a children's book about dealing about grief. Does that have any bearing on the case? Does it mean anything to prosecutors or defense that she wrote that book?
So it's certainly the more salacious issue in this case that the prosecutor is going to kind of have to deal with. What was interesting in the defense opening statement was they played that 911 call where she called it, they say, immediately after finding her husband dead, that she was distraught and overcome with grief. And their argument's going to be that this is not someone putting on a show, that this was a woman who's genuinely grieving the death of her husband. And the children's book kind of is part of that kind of broader issue for the defense, which is this was not a sophisticated, evil, diabolical person. This is a woman who's grieving the loss of her husband. What the prosecutor might counter is that this woman was an absolute psychopath, that she was not capable of basic human emotion, she had no decency, and she had no compassion, and that everything she did was plotted to kind of advance her own financial interests, and that she could care less about her husband, she could care less about the outcome of murdering him, and that children's book was just an attempt by her to make her look like someone who was grieving when she wasn't.
While one story unfolds around the defense and the prosecution, another parallel story happens outside the courtroom. There, people are free to talk to the media about what they're seeing inside and share their opinions on the case. Liv Kelleher spoke to a few of the public observers who came out to watch, some lining up as early as 4 in the morning.
With temps below freezing and nothing but a lawn chair, Selena Armitage lined up to secure a coveted wristband and gain entry into the courtroom.
I just love watching true crime trials.
She's a true crime junkie from West Valley City who typically watches trials on YouTube.
I just wanted to experience a big trial, and it hasn't disappointed today.
Up to 24 members of the public are allowed in the courtroom each day. This could include crime aficionados like Selena, court watchers who observe trials for errors or inconsistencies, and community members who are invested in the verdict. All seats for the public were filled today. How would you describe the energy in the courtroom?
Okay, the energy, that's interesting you ask, because energy with the prosecutor is so different, but when the defense attorney gets up, you just can feel the change.
Selena described the jury as zoomed in on defense attorney Kathy Nestor as she made her opening statements and laid out their narrative of what they say led up to and followed Eric Richins' death. Were there any key moments in either the opening statements or the first two witnesses that we saw? Anything that stood out to you?
When they brought his father on, that was very sad. I know they have to do that.
The state called Eric's father, Eugene, his sister, Katie, and her husband, Clint. Direct, tense, and sometimes emotional testimony followed. Selena says not reacting is a challenge.
I mean, at home, there's times I'm hollering at my TV or I'm just like, oh, I cannot believe that. And today was a little frustrating for me, but I just, I had to keep my facial expressions stable.
She says she plans to be in court at least twice a week and is preparing for many more early mornings in Summit County. Liv Kelleher, KUTV 2 News.
All right, time to get you caught up on the last 2 years of this case. Throughout 2024, the defense tried multiple times to take the case from Summit County to Salt Lake County. In April of 2025, a judge delayed the trial indefinitely while the defense appealed venue rulings. In late April of that same year, the Utah Supreme Court issued the decision to keep the trial in Summit County. In June of 2025, the Utah Supreme Court denies the second appeal to move the venue. Today, the trial began with opening statements, and we will have a team at the trial every day for the coming weeks. To get the most up-to-date information, you can download the 2 News mobile app, and on top of that, we've been covering this case for nearly 3 years, and you can find all of our previous reports on KUTV.com. And now turning our attention to Tooele County, where there are only a few days left for some parents to find new daycare options for their children after Overlake Academy announced that it was closing last week. But space in Tooele County is very limited. 2 News' Leslie Duarte reports.
Yeah, I receive many calls like every day. Hagley Gonzalez runs Montessori Childcare, a licensed daycare center from her home. The first day I received 10 calls, I say, what happened? She says since Overlake Academy announced it was closing, parents have been looking for help. But in Tooele, space is limited, especially for children under 12 months old.
How many more children can you care for?
Maybe I can take 3 more families.
According to the city of Tooele, once Overlake closes on Friday, there will only be 2 commercial daycare centers in the city, leaving parents concerned.
Yeah, there's other options, but are they going to fill up?
Overlake Academy is owned by Premier Early Childhood Education Partners, a company from Chicago. Tooele City Business Licensing Department says the company renewed their license earlier this month. I reached out to the company with questions about why they were closing the daycare, but they shared the same information given to me last week by staff at Overlake, stating operational factors. For now, some parents will rely on family.
To find a permanent option is going to take way more than the 2 weeks that they gave us.
Gonzalez asked parents not to rush.
See the place where you bring your kids, do an interview with the owners of the place and make sure that people have license.
Coming up on Arc Salt Lake, what an avalanche forecaster says about this week's conditions as storms head our way. A second man has died in the Snake Creek area of the Wasatch Backcountry after being buried in an avalanche. This marks the third avalanche death of the season. The snow biker who was caught in the slide was a 45-year-old man from Rose Park, Utah. 2 News' Natalie Wattis spoke with an avalanche forecaster about future slide danger as more storms head our way this week.
We're gonna continue to see avalanches starting tomorrow through midweek, and that's only going to make things even more tricky. Now, I just want to say that even though the danger is high and considerable out there, things are very dangerous. You can still go in the backcountry. Just you have to choose the appropriate terrain. You need to avoid steep terrain, but a couple of these incidents have been caused because people have been underneath steep terrain, and you can trigger avalanches even from the flats because it's going to propagate up the hill above you. and you're going to pull the wall down on top of you. And that's been the source of the avalanche fatalities and some close calls over the past week. You don't necessarily have to be in the steep terrain. If you're in the flats beneath steep terrain, you're also teasing the cat. You may be in trouble as well.
It sounds like from Washington County Sheriff's Office that they said this avalanche that happened on Sunday was a big slab. Does it sound like that's what happened in this case?
It's no secret here. The storms that came in late last week consolidated into a strong slab of snow that's overlying the weak early season sugar. And that's what's causing all these dangerous avalanche accidents and fatalities. People still need to be aware that it's not going away. And even if those signs of instability is not right in your face, I would say the danger is going to persist over the next week or two. All these sort of risky sports out there, most of the time you get away with it. Most of the time you come back to the truck and your family. But anytime you're heading out into these events, you have to know that there's some chance that you're not going to make it back. You need to be prepared. You have to have the gear. You have to be armed with a weapon of knowledge and know the conditions to be able to manage your risks and know that there may be a chance that because you're in the mountains and that's an unforgiving environment, that you just may not make it back to the truck at the end of the day.
This map should give you a better idea of where both fatal avalanches happened. Wasatch Mountain State Park is east of the Salt Lake Valley near Midway and Heber. The specific area where crews are working is in the Snake Creek area west of Midway. According to the Utah Avalanche Center, slide danger in this area is rated considerable. Over in California, hundreds of family and friends came together Sunday night to honor the 9 backcountry skiers who died in last week's avalanche. People lit candles in a moment of silence and reflection. All 9 bodies have now been recovered from the mountain. The slide happened last Tuesday near Castle Peak, a remote backcountry skiing area north of Lake Tahoe. The avalanche is considered the deadliest in modern California history. The Nevada County Sheriff's Office is investigating why the company Blackbird Mountain Guides continued with this trip in stormy conditions. And having the right equipment is the first step in being prepared for an avalanche. Emergency equipment includes an active avalanche beacon or rough location, a probe for an accurate location of those buried by an avalanche, as well as a carbon avalanche shovel to dig out anyone who's buried. An avalanche backpack with an airbag can save lives because the additional volume means you cannot be buried so quickly. All right, turning our attention to the weather, let's check in with our meteorologist Sean Kelly in that first alert forecast.
Yeah, we've got a warm one here in the days ahead. We're talking about the warm before the storm and really the warm after the storm as well. Dealing with temperatures across much of the Wasatch Front into the 40s after we were well into the 50s today. You can see the difference from just yesterday. 5 to 13 degrees warmer from 24 hours ago. Still pretty mild in Park City at 39 degrees, 47 into Milford, 47 into Cedar City here. So the melting of the snow certainly not going to be helping with the avalanche danger here, remaining considerable as we keep dealing with this thaw and then refreeze combined with more snow. And we've got that here heading our way, more snow for those high elevations. You can see we've got really a lot of moisture dumping across the Pacific Northwest as this atmospheric river that eventually will bring us plenty of water and snow moving into the northern part of the state. So again, this is just a northern Utah storm. As we get into tomorrow morning, mainly dry for much of the region. Some high elevation showers starting to move in. But it's going to be tomorrow evening's commute where we start to see more noticeable changes here across the Wasatch Front, mainly in the Salt Lake Valley and northward here with some light rain showers moving in, some steadier mountain high elevation snow, and then the best chance for precipitation really moving in late tomorrow night into early Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, we could see an even wetter commute here that could impact some roads and your morning commute. So watch out for that. So Tuesday night's commute and Wednesday morning's commute will have the best chance for some weather-related impacts that we'll have to watch out for. And then again, that high elevation snow continues and then gradually tapers off as we get into Wednesday afternoon. Just some lingering isolated to widely scattered showers moving in. Windy as well for some of those high elevation mountains, but we've got a whole lot of water moving in, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe all the way up to an inch of rain here. So this is going to be a pretty wet storm carrying a lot of moisture. Unfortunately, it's going to be that high elevation snow. We've got winter weather advisories in effect for 8,000 feet and above, where we could see about 2 to 8 inches, 6 to 16 inches above 9,000 feet. This latest model run here shows potentially seeing more than that into the cottonwood. So we'll watch out for that. At least that high elevation getting the moisture. At least we're getting water, but unfortunately just going to be too warm to see anything here across the valley floors. So we're into the 30s as we head into the overnight. Pretty mild again. Temperatures well above freezing. High temperatures for tomorrow into the 50s. 60s down towards the south as we continue to stay dry. St. George, we're looking at temperatures here that'll be warming up into the 70s. You stay dry and you're getting close to 80 degrees by the weekend, if you believe it or not. Mostly cloudy to partly cloudy skies. And then across the Wasatch Front, we're dealing with temperatures here into the 50s over the next several days. We dry out on Thursday into Friday, back into the 60s. 60s to start off the weekend with the potential for another storm moving in as we head into Sunday and into early Monday of next week.
All right, Sean, thank you. Coming up at Arc Salt Lake, Thanksgiving Point bringing back its Tulip Festival, when you can see more than 1 million flowers. Well, at the rate we're going with this weather, we have another sign that spring is almost here because Thanksgiving Point is getting ready for its annual Tulip Festival. You'll be able to see 1 million flowers, really more than 1 million flowers, at Ashton Gardens from April 8th until May 16th.
The flowers are getting planted across 50 acres of garden. This year's festival will also feature new sculptured topiaries. Topiaries, that's the one.
Well, the remains of St. Francis of Assisi are on public display in Italy to mark 800 years since his death. So, Saturday, the saint's skeleton was exhumed and the bones were put in place for a special prayer service. As the patron saint of animals and ecology, Francis is one of the most venerated figures in Roman Catholic history.
Yeah, and he's the one man who inspired the name of the late Pope Francis because of his commitment to poverty, peace, and nature.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We'll have more news at 9 o'clock.